Welcome back to the podcast all about health, biohacking and mindset. This is Zestology. I'm Tony Wrighton, and you know by now, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, I like to record these podcasts out and about. It's a personal update and I haven't done one for a while. It's peering back the veil, if you're interested. What goes on behind the scenes, everything that I'm getting up to in terms of my books, my podcasts, stuff on social, working with other people. Got some updates around my own, a new personal book which is out, and a book that I've collaborated on with two very senior NHS doctors as well. Some biohacking stuff, some mindset stuff, and what's going on here in beautiful Portugal as well. And it is, it's sort of early March day, and I'm out for a stroll, and I've always been that annoying one who's wanted to wear shorts all year round living in the UK, but it's not possible. But it is here. I think the Portuguese think I'm mad. They dress like it's the middle of winter, but right now it's sort of 17 degrees and I've got shorts on. So more on Portuguese life because that's where I live now. But first, let's tackle some of the topics that we normally cover on Zestology, and that is health, biohacking and mindset. And books. I mean, books is such an important part of my business, my own books. But what's been really interesting over the past 6 to 9 months is I've started to collaborate with other authors and help them publish their books as well. And the last time I mentioned on this podcast was about 6 months ago. And from that personal update, I was very lucky and excited to be introduced to Dr. Sunil Kumar and Dr. Tony Brunning, who are two NHS doctors. Now, I should say at this point, it's just the wind has blown. I've been waiting to record this personal update for about a week. It's been very nice conditions here in Portugal, except it's been quite windy. And that's not great for recording podcasts. So I'm walking along with a big muff on my microphone, and I'm hoping that it's going to stop too much of the wind noise, and I'm hoping that doesn't affect your podcast listening enjoyment. But anyway, as I say, I publish my own books, and I think I've got 7 or 8 books out now. But also I help other authors bring out their books now, because I've been working... Firstly, I had 3 books published traditionally through Virgin Books, part of Random House Group. And then I have been working as an indie publisher for some years now. And it is one of the most exciting parts of the job is working with people who have a huge amount of knowledge but haven't published books before and helping them publish their book. So with Dr. Sunil and Dr. Tony, it's been absolutely brilliant. They are lifestyle medicine doctors, but they're conventional medicine doctors as well. My favourite kind of doctor, because they're really highly qualified and they're helping people sort of at the coalface every day who really need it. But also they understand all the stuff that goes on the rest of the time to keep you healthy. And they've written a book called The Power of Preparation for Surgery. So when I started chatting to Sunil and Tony, it was probably October. I think that's when I last mentioned it on the podcast, maybe September. And we had a chat, and then I helped them publish their book, which is now out and doing well. And the reason that I'm so excited about this book is, firstly, it's great to put into practice everything that I've been doing for a number of years, but just sort of beavering away on my own, really, learnt all the skills, and now I get to help other authors. And I've done it with quite a few authors now, and it is one of the most rewarding things. But also this book is so needed. It is all about getting yourself surgery ready. So perfect time for it. We're coming to the end of winter. Unfortunately, if you're in the UK, the waiting lists for surgery are absolutely huge, not ideal. And what they're all about is getting yourself surgery ready, prehabilitation, getting yourself as fit as possible so that you can recover as quick as possible. The right diet, the right exercise, a little bit of movement, consulting with your doctor to find out, exactly what you need to do, and if you need to take any medicine, and how you can get absolutely in the zone and ready for your surgery so that when it comes about, you've got the best chance of healing quickly from it. And strangely enough, these are the things that often don't get talked about in the conventional medicine world. So they've done an absolutely brilliant job. I would really encourage you to have a look at the book, The Power of Preparation for Surgery. And I'm very proud of them because I think they've brought out a great book that is going to matter to a lot of people. And I think in the end it's going to be, I think most of their sales are paperback rather than ebook, because I think a lot of people want to hold a copy of their book in their hands before going into surgery. I believe that they're getting, quite a few older readers who are literally preparing for surgery but are just waiting for a hell of a long time, and this helps them. There's also advice and tips from people who really know what they're talking about, dealing with the weight mentally. It's not easy. And all in all, it's been a pleasure working with them. So do check out their book. And also, if you have written a book or you are writing a book and you want any help with that, then get in touch through my website, tonywrighton.com. Be happy to talk about it. It's a fun little sideline. No more than that, really. But I do like working with other authors. Now, the wind was getting a bit vigorous then, so I've just turned around and I'm now walking uphill. I think the wind is less, but I'm a bit more out of breath. So that's the trade-off. Next up, it's another book update, because I have a new book out, sort of. And this is a sort of interesting story, really, because, as I said, I've been involved in the book world for some years. I started writing books in 2006 or 2005, I think. Audiobooks first and then ebooks. Then I got the book deal with Virgin Books, and then I started publishing my own books through my company. And that was at least 10 years ago that I started doing that, and then publishing other people. And in 2019, I brought out a book called Histamine Intolerance Explained. Not written by me, but written by my company. I assembled a whole team of health authors and experts and fact checkers and copywriters and editors, and we wrote the book together and used the pen name, if you like, Ketoko Guides. A little bit like a sort of Lonely Planet for Health. It's sort of like a pen name. There was only one problem with that, and that is that everybody knew that Ketoko Guides was essentially me and my team. So it was sort of like a pen name, but it was sort of also, people knew it was me. The book went on to do very well, and it still does very well. It's got over 300 reviews on Amazon, and I guess it's probably the best-selling histamine intolerance book out there, along with Histamine Intolerance Cookbook. It's quite a niche area, isn't it? But for people who have histamine intolerance, it's very important. So I decided to republish this book with a completely new edition under my own name. And this is something that you've got to be a little bit mad to do, because when you do that, you lose all your Amazon real estate. The title might be the same, but because I've republished it as a second edition, it doesn't have the same sort of ranking as it did before. But that doesn't matter. I just wanted to update the book. I wanted my name to be on it, because I speak to people who through my histamine intolerance site Instagram every day, and I'm sort of conscious that it's me talking to them, and therefore I wanted the book to be me rather than a pen name, even though people knew it was me. So I rewrote it top to bottom, and I worked with some excellent experts along the way. I can't say exactly who, but one of them was the editor of a nationally recognised health magazine, one of the best people in the country, I would say. And she worked on editing and fact-checking with me. So I wrote it, and then she sort of meticulously went through and fact-checked everything, because, it's got to be right, and I wanted it to be right. And because this is an all-new guide, there's a lot of personal experience and anecdotes. I talk about what happened on my wedding night to do with histamine intolerance. That's quite a good one. There are pictures of me living in Italy at the age of 18, drinking beer at university at the age of 21, quite bloated at that point. Histamine going on, definitely, for sure. And it's just been a lot of fun to put together and start this guide from scratch. So Histamine Intolerance Explained version 2 is now on sale on Amazon, and I would love you to read it. If you do read it and you fancy giving it a star rating or a review, that would be brilliant as well. But I've got to say that it's taken so long to put together this. And it's It's really a labour of love in that, as I said, if you left the old edition up, it would have a better ranking on Amazon. But this is a better book. I know that, and that's more important. And in the end, that's always the reason for doing stuff, isn't it? When you enjoy it and it's a labour of love and you're proud of the outcome and you know it's going to help people, and hopefully it's going to sell lots of copies as well. But anyway, that is now out. So Histamine Intolerance Explained by Tony Wrighton, edition 2. And you will see that on Amazon. It will say previously published as Histamine Intolerance Explained by Ketoko Guides, which was also me, my pen name, and it is now actually me. So yeah, very excited to have that out. And there's all sorts of stuff in there that I think is quite fun, including pages and pages and pages of science and references. But then also there's one section called Entirely Unscientific but Quite Useful Food Polls, which I've been running on Instagram for ages. And that is basically, sometimes there's so little information out there on, I don't know, is almond butter high in histamine or low in histamine, that the best way to do it is just crowdsource an answer and ask absolutely loads of people what they think, and you sort of get your answer from that. So that is out, and very pleased and proud to have that out, and quite relieved as well. Don't want to look at the book publishing process for a while, to be quite honest. Let's move on to some biohacks now. I've mentioned SPMs before, specialised pro-resolving mediators, but I want to do some more content on this because I think this is the supplement that I am most excited about at the moment. If you take omega-3s in any way, and let's be honest, a lot of people do, it's one of the sort of fairly standard ones that are recommended for inflammation, heart health and everything else, you might want to look at SPMs, specialised pro-resolving mediators. And the way that these came about is that a brilliant researcher a few years ago found that SPMs are what omega-3s turn into in the body, but he found a way to isolate them out of the body. So it's a little bit like the difference between coconut oil and MCT oil, or C8 MCT oil. It's fractionated, so it's basically, it is already what the body turns it into when you swallow the capsule. Therefore, it's a lot more bioavailable and you're getting a lot more of the good stuff. I think that's the only way to describe it. Now, you may remember that I mentioned SPMs before, because when you normally buy omega-3s, you open the bottle and it's fish oil, and you open it up and it smells of fish, right? I mean, it's fish oil. What's astonishing is that I've tried a few different brands now, and every time you open the bottle, it smells of just unbelievably delicious. I mean, the last one that I opened, I've got the latest one that I've tried, which I think is very good, great for inflammation, especially in the gut, is Life Extensions SPMs, and it smells like vanilla ice cream. I can't get my head around how it smells so good. And before that I was using SPM Supreme, also smells great, but I've found that the benefit on the gut and on inflammation is excellent. So wanted to mention that because if you are someone who takes omega-3s, I'd love you to look at that. These are not cheap, but the reason that I was excited by them is because I thought, it'd be great for inflammation. You know, if you've got a sort of, I don't know, a dodgy knee or your back's hurting a little bit, you could take it for that. I haven't found a benefit there. Where I've really found a benefit is in the gut. And we all know that inflammation in the gut can lead to problems all over the body and long-term health problems. And it has improved my gut so much that I'm very excited about this process. So check out SPMs if you like. And then the other research that I've been doing, it's quite niche. But as we come into spring and summer in most of the parts of the world where this podcast is listened to, in the Northern Hemisphere, I've been amazed at the power of the sun here in Portugal. So we moved here in September and I thought, winter, it's going to be a few months where it's actually pretty cold and grim. And most of the time it's been pretty nice, I've got to say. And when the sun comes out, I've got to wear UV. And I've been trying out these various natural sunscreens because if you follow @TimBiohacker on Instagram, you will know that sunscreen and sun cream is one of the one of the ways that you can really absorb a lot of chemicals very quickly and not good for you at all. Sort of counterintuitive, isn't it? You're trying to sort of do yourself some good by protecting yourself from the sun, but then you're putting something with loads of chemicals on your skin. So I've been trying for a long time natural sunscreens and trying to get one that works. Well, I thought I'd found one, because the problem with most of these natural sunscreens is that the principal ingredient is zinc oxide, and that goes up to about 25% zinc oxide. And the problem is always when you rub it in, you look like a clown because it's white and sticky and it just doesn't rub in. Well, I eventually found a product called Badger Sunscreen. And actually, Badger Sunscreen only has 4 ingredients. It's all natural. It does seem to rub in mostly okay, and I was quite excited about it. So about a month ago, took my delivery of Badger Sunscreen, and it was a bit of a cloudy day at the weekend, but then the sun came out a little bit, so we all trooped outside. The family went outside for an hour in the sun, and I had a little snooze in the sun, in the February sun actually. It wasn't very warm, it was quite a windy day. But yeah, it's Portugal, but it is February. And I had the Badger sunscreen. Remember, this is factor 50 on my nose and my cheeks. And I got quite badly burnt. Now, it may just be because I've got sensitive skin, but I don't think this Badger sunscreen works very well. I'm not particularly impressed by it. So I'd like to know if you've got any better suggestions. I'm not sure that one is a particularly good one. I do, however, like Babo West, and there's the one which is for babies is factor 50. It's a sort of a light blue one that also rubs in well, and it's a natural sunscreen and does seem to protect me. But if you look at the weather forecast for here in Portugal now, it is UV index high, and therefore definitely worth considering in terms of what sunscreen you're going to wear.
Do you know if you're getting enough magnesium? Because 4 out of 5 people aren't. Interrupting the podcast for one moment to say this is a big problem, because magnesium is involved in more than 300 biochemical reactions in your body. And right now, I want to talk to you about the most common signs to look out for that could indicate you're magnesium deficient. So, are you irritable or anxious? Do you struggle with insomnia? Do you experience muscle cramps or twitches? Do you have high blood pressure? Are you sometimes constipated? There are loads of other symptoms, but those are just a few questions. And here's what most people don't know. Taking any magnesium supplement won't solve your problem. I've been trying out a few new electrolyte brands recently, and frankly, I've been shocked at how many of them use really suboptimal types of magnesium. That is why, in terms of magnesium, I exclusively recommend Magnesium Breakthrough. It's the only full spectrum magnesium supplement with 7 unique forms of magnesium that your body can actually use and absorb. If you go to biooptimizers.com/zestology and use the code zestology10, you can get gifts with your purchase this month, up to 2 travel size bottles of Magnesium Breakthrough, so you can take it with you on your travels as well, especially if you go somewhere hot later on this year. So if you go to biooptimizers.com/zestology, this is a limited time offer. Use that code zestology10. That works all over the world, works on the UK site as well, which is biooptimizers.co.uk. Remember to use that code zestology10, and remember, it is really important to make sure you're getting enough magnesium, but magnesium that you can actually absorb. That's it, back to the show.
Okay, these personal update podcasts are always a good opportunity to go over the books I've been reading, and I've got 2 or 3 books that I wanted to tell you about, and will I give them marks out of 10? Not quite sure, we'll see. Some I haven't finished and some I have, but the books I've been reading, and then an opportunity at the end in terms of transformation and using neuro-linguistic programming skills, which I'm quite excited about, so I'll tell you about that afterwards. But before that, I've got my Kindle library open and looking at the books that I've been reading, and starting off with Trust by Hernan Diaz, winner of the 2023 Pulitzer Prize for Fiction. And I've been reading that for the last week or so, and about halfway through it. Apparently it was Barack Obama's favourite book of last year, and it is absolutely brilliant. I quite often like to tell you about the fiction books that I'm reading, And I like to encourage Zestology guests to mention fiction books, simply because I find fiction one of the best ways to relax. And I find that the stats are there to back it up on, if you're looking at my Oura ring or heart rate variability, if you go to bed an hour early and you read for an hour and then you turn up the light, you are getting your brain into such a good place before bed. One thing's for certain, it's a lot better than checking your emails 2 minutes before you're trying to go to sleep. And for me, historical fiction is a particularly good one. This follows the fortunes, I don't want to give too much away actually, but it follows the fortunes of a family set in New York, starting in the 18th century, starting in the 19th century and then moving to the 20th century. A fascinating snapshot of what it was like in New York at the time. But then the storytelling and the style is just so good as well. And then on top of that, so thought-provoking, so many parallels to be made between what was going on then and what was going on now, and the madness that we feel like we're living through at the moment. Well, it was all going on there. In fact, even more madness then. We think we live in uniquely stressful, strange times. Well, wait until you see what they went through. So that book, when you read winner of the 2023 Pulitzer Prize for Fiction, you sort of think, it's probably all right. And I am always so excited when I find a new historical fiction author because I've basically got a list of my favourite ones and I've read all of their books and therefore there's no more to read. So if you are a historical fiction fan, definitely check out Rose Tremaine, Robert Harris, Con Eagledon, and probably those three for starters, but I've read every single one of their books and therefore always good to find a new author, and I think Hernan Diaz is one of those. So Trust, winner of the 2023 Pulitzer Prize for Fiction, is a good one. I've also at the same time been reading non-fiction. Now the reason for reading more than one book at once is firstly that's just the way my brain works, and secondly I find, as I was just saying, when I go to bed I like to calm my brain down and get ready for sleep by reading. And if I'm reading non-fiction, I can often be just so tired after about 10 minutes I'll turn out the light. If I'm reading fiction, it's sometimes so good that I don't want to turn out the light. An hour later I'm still reading and it's totally defeated the point of going to bed early because I'm now up later than I wanted to be. And Trust is actually that good, I've got to say. But Seth Godin has written a book called Linchpin. It's not his most recent actually, but it is all about being a leader in your chosen field, being the leader in an organisation or a field or a passion project, or being a leader amongst a community that you work in, and sort of doing original work, inspiring people and finding new ways to engage people. And actually, it's great. I don't know if you've read any of Seth Godin's other books like Purple Cow, but he is definitely one that I would recommend, and I think you'd enjoy Linchpin. I'm aware that the fact that I'm saying that it sends me off to sleep within 10 minutes doesn't sound like a massive recommendation, but it is very good. So I think that's good. Now, the third book that I wanted to mention is Market Wizards, which came up in my podcast with Mark Austin a few weeks ago. First ever podcast I've done on money and finances on Zestology. And if you didn't listen, I very much recommend that podcast with my friend Mark, who's we spent many happy hours when I was in Thailand. He's a friend of mine, and we spent many happy hours chit-chatting about this and that, and sort of finances as well. But what I like is that in his professional career, he's always made the link between having your financial world in order and having your life in order. And he's one of those, he's interesting to me because he's very into his well-being and he's very into finances, money and investments as well, and constantly makes the link between the two. So very much worth checking out that podcast. And the book is by Jack Schwager, I think. And it's called Market Wizards, Interviews with Top Traders. It's probably not one for everybody, but it is one I've been reading and very much enjoying. It's a classic in that it's about 30 years old. And just for something different, I've been really enjoying it. But what I like is the storytelling style, which is very similar to my beliefs that the best way to get your point across is to tell good stories. And that's what he does very well in Market Wizards. It's really just a series of stories of different people from times gone by who've been involved in trading in one way or another. Definitely one of the seminal books in that field, I think, and one that came up in my chat with Mark Austin a few weeks ago. So Market Wizards, the third book that I'm reading, and encourage you to check that out. Right, before I go, my program has now officially launched, Changemakers. And I did mention this briefly on the podcast last week, but do you know what? I haven't had a massive opportunity to promote it yet. Changemakers is a 6 months NLP transformational program. It is all about transformational change in your life and being able to affect transformational change in the lives of people around you and other people as well. The skills of neuro-linguistic programming lend themselves so perfectly to transformation, and I'm really excited about it. It's basically as close as you can get to sort of daily one-on-one access with me for 6 months, and you have actually got daily one-on-one access with me. And what we do is with each individual person, I'm only really looking for 2 more people at the moment, because I want it to be a really small select group where we all support each other, and I've got enough time to actually talk to people individually one-on-one whenever they want, and there is access whenever people want. What we do is we set out exactly what people want to change in their lives, and that is the metric of success. And that is my metric of success as well. And then we start using all the NLP skills, along with some other skills that I've cherry-picked over the years, some of the Cialdini persuasion tactics, some of the stuff that I worked on in my Mind Factor training with Carl Morris, who was also my coach for quite a long time. And we cherry-pick some of those skills as well to each month get closer and closer to that transformation until in month 6 it is complete, and we've got a whole suite of tools to make sure that that works really well. In month 3 we do something that I've created that I'm really enjoying, and they are called transformational sprints, where we get a month's work of deep work transformational change done in about a week, and that's a lot of fun. We focus on health, finances, life transformation, family and relationships, charity, so many different areas. Definitely work. You know, if it's a new job you're after, this is the place to come. If it's a radical improvement in your health, that is obviously exactly the sort of thing we talk about in this podcast, but at a much deeper level. And it's just been a lot of fun. So very excited by this new program. We're meeting every week, and then we've got the sort of daily one-on-one access, and we're honing it and refining it as we go. And just the other thing to say is that constantly while we're doing it, I am doing everything the same as my change makers. So I'm taking the program as well. I'm taking full part in it. We're all accountable to each other, and that accountability is a massive factor. You know, there's no way I'm going to let anyone sign up to this program and not actually get it done. And the reason for that is accountability is so key. Firstly, the public commitment, and then secondly, you're accountable to me. So I'm gonna keep you on track. And if you don't message me on a daily basis, I know you're not doing the work. So it's all about the big goals, the big transformational goals, but then it's breaking it down into smaller and smaller chunks until you do a little bit towards your goal each day. It just doesn't happen overnight. You've got to work at it. So all of that might sound obvious, but you know, it's just such a privilege and so much fun to be able to work with people one-on-one like this. If you're interested, I know it's not for everybody, and I know the cost isn't for everybody either, but it's tonywrighton.com/changemakers. That is it. I'm worried that it's getting a little bit windy now, so I'm going to say goodbye. Thanks to my podcast partners, Magnesium Breakthrough. As always, do check out Magnesium Breakthrough by going to biooptimizers.com/zestology. They've got all sorts of freebies over on there as well, and sometimes you get up to about 35% off. Use that code Zestology10. If you're in the UK, use the code Zestology10 as well, and that's pretty much it. I'm walking back to mine now, so we're back on the main road with the traffic. So So listen, I'm going to say goodbye. Make sure you bag yourself the magnesium if you haven't tried it already. It's definitely worth trying. 100% my number one magnesium supplement, and I should probably tell you that right now I've run out. I just forgot to order more Magnesium Breakthrough, and I'm not very happy about it. I'm really looking forward to my new supply arriving. I'm hoping it's going to be in the next couple of days. Entirely my fault, but I had to get on there, use the discount code, and stock up again. So Magnesium Breakthrough, biooptimizers.com/zestology. Right, that's it. Thanks for listening to this podcast. I'll be back next week. Until then, have a great week. See you soon.